All right, well, let's get cooking, right? Let's get into this. Um, well, hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. If you don't know, my name is Alex Bolan. I'm the president of DigitalThinker, and we have been supporting organizations like yours for over 20 years by optimizing maintenance operations and asset management strategies through tools such as Hexagon's EAM or Enterprise Asset Management. And it obviously hasn't been Hexagon EAM for 20 years, especially for some of you more mature users. Um, but we've been here since the beginning. So today we're going to share some uncomfortable truths about older legacy versions of EAM, how that might be challenging you right now. And the encouragement out of today is just to think about what your investment in this technology is if you're on an older version. And we're just going to learn today. So I'm going to start with this. If you are running Hexagon EAM version 11.7 or older on-prem, right? What you have isn't what I would consider a mature or stable system. It is quite literally a ticking time bomb in your organization. Now, I know that sounds provocative, and it's meant to be, right? So, after weeks of deep research and trying to understand security vulnerabilities, infrastructure obsolescence, and just compliance requirements, I've uncovered some risks that I think most organizations are not talking about right now. And they're risks that could impact your current operations, your security, and more importantly, it's gonna impact your bottom line. So over the next 20 minutes or a little less, we're going to learn why security vulnerabilities in legacy environments create immediate business risks, how infrastructure obsolescence is creating technologically dead ends, what compliance gaps could cost you if you're in a regulated industry such as food and bev or pharma or utilities provider, the hidden costs that make legacy systems more expensive than you really think. And then we're going to transition a little bit into like what's so appealing about migrating into the cloud, what type of strategic advantages beyond just cost savings that it provides you. And then more importantly, and this is where it's a little more near and dear to me, we're going to talk about how this affects your people and then what you as leaders within your organizations can do about it. So I'm not here to sell you anything flashy. I'm not here to talk about buzzwords. Um, like I said, I did some deep research and I just want to deliver facts that is backed by that research. So you can just make the most informed decision about your company, your asset management strategy, and what you're going to do with your asset management solution. So let's go ahead and dive into this a little bit. So let's start with the most immediate risk, which I believe are security vulnerabilities. So if you're running Hexagon EAM version 11.6 or earlier, your system contains what's known as a CVE. And for those of you that are phonetically inclined, that stands for Charlie Victor Echo 2017-7952. It's a SQL injection vulnerability with a CVSS score of 9.8 out of 10. For those of you like me who are not familiar with the CVSS scoring system, basically 1 to 10, right? 1 is good and 10 is really bad. Being at a 9.8 is pretty rough. It's about as bad as you can get without being a perfect 10 on vulnerability. And this isn't just a minor issue. It's a security flaw that could compromise not only your entire EAM environment, but it could compromise your on-prem network as a whole. So what makes this vulnerability particularly concerning is that the exploit code is publicly available on security databases like ExploitDB. And what does that mean for you? It means that anyone with basic technical skills can find and potentially use this exploit against your system. So let me put this in a little bit more practical terms. This vulnerability allows unauthenticated remote code execution. That means the attacker doesn't need to be inside of your network. They don't have to have a valid credential to exploit it. They just need to be able to reach your Hexagon EAM or N4 EAM web interface. And that's the same interface your technicians and remote workers use every single day. So let's think about what's in your EAM system, right? Let's think about asset configurations, maintenance schedules, personal information, operational procedures, safety protocols. Now imagine all of that in the hands of someone who doesn't have your best interests at heart. I think even for us as a small company, cybersecurity attacks feel not real. Like, why would anybody choose us? We're just a small consulting company. Our tech stack and our database isn't, billions of dollars worth of information or financial information, but they're still very real, and we're probably just as exposed as anybody else is. And so you need to think about what type of information that is sitting in these databases that could bring it to a screeching halt. And so this isn't just theoretical, right? Organizations with unpatched vulnerabilities experience data breaches constantly. And while you think that, firewalls and network security will protect you, just remember that this vulnerability can be exploited just through your web interface, which is often accessible from the internet or just for remote workers. In contrast, current versions implement comprehensive security frameworks, including advanced encryption, role-based access controls, and integration with modern identity management systems. These aren't just super flashy, nice to have fancy features. They're essential protections against increasingly sophisticated threat landscapes. So anyway, moving on into my next component here. Let's talk about the infrastructure obsolescence crisis. So beyond security vulnerabilities, let's talk about the infrastructure your legacy system depends on. Most organizations running version 11.7 are using SQL Server databases, which is the most common setup in our community, right? However, some are still running on Oracle databases, and both scenarios present serious challenges. So let's talk a little bit more about that. If you're on a SQL Server, you're likely running Windows Server 2012 R2, which reached its end of expected support in October of 2023. That means Microsoft isn't providing security updates anymore for that. It's just not happening. And then for those of you on Oracle side, you're probably running Oracle 18 Charlie or older 19C releases. Oracle 18C reached its premier support or end of premier support in June of 2021. That was 5 years ago. And the extended support ending in June 2024. So let's talk about the infrastructure compatibility matrix a little bit. And here's what this means in practical terms. You're running business critical software on platforms that will not receive security patches. So when new vulnerabilities are discovered, and they will be, you're on your own. You're completely on your own. And what makes this particularly challenging is that you just can't upgrade the infrastructure and keep the application. Current versions of Hexagon EAM require a little bit more modern database versions and operating systems, and in some cases, hardware upgrades. So, which sounds, I know you mentioned hardware upgrades and everybody's like, oh my God, it's going to be so expensive. It's a potential, right? Something you should be thinking about. Your legacy application won't run on modern infrastructure, and modern infrastructure won't support your legacy application anymore. The compounding effect is multiple obsolete components create technological dead ends, and there's no way out of it except just pushing forward. It's not just one component reaching an end of life, it's the entire stack becoming increasingly unsupportable over time. So the next component of this, let's talk about some industry specifics, some regulatory landmines here. For those of you that are in regulated industries, legacy systems or older versions create compliance headaches that get more expensive over time. Current versions of Hexagon EAM have been independently validated for NERC CIP compliance by the North American power industry's largest independent services provider, so the NAES. They confirmed that modern versions provide the encryption, the access controls, audit trails, and incident response capabilities required for critical infrastructure protection. If you're on version 11.7 or older, this system lacks many of these compliance features. The next component, right? Let's talk about food and bev, pharma, med device manufacturing, right? Like you're held to the same standard at the FDA 21 and CFR Part 11 compliance for companies that are in food and bev and pharmaceutical, like I mentioned, and it is now required to have electronic signature support, audit trail requirements, data integrity controls that are built into current versions but missing from some of these legacy systems, SOC 2 and ISO 27001 requirements for enterprise systems security frameworks assume modern security capabilities that simply just don't exist in these legacy systems. So when auditors review your systems, you may find yourself explaining why your critical infrastructure runs on software that doesn't meet security standards. Let's let that sink in a little bit. When the auditor comes, and the key word there is when. It's not if, it is when. We are seeing this today. We're seeing this with folks that are on even older systems such as MP2, for those of you that are familiar, right? Where end of life and sunsetting for that was almost 2 decades ago. Still running MP2, or some food and bev manufacturing companies that are on version 11.6, 11.3, some even on 11.1, they're getting audited today, and they're getting their backs put up against a wall to make significant investments to maintain their compliance with the federal government. So the financial implications of this are huge. Violations can be substantial. Regulatory fines, legal liability, reputational damage often exceed the cost of a system modernization. So to put in a little bit more plain terms there, if you're running an older version on-prem and you've been, just on the fence about upgrading because of the cost of the regulatory fines and other components that will come down the line when you do get audited are going to be dramatically severe. And I can promise you this from what just an upgrade will cost you from our perspective. I think an upgrade for DigitalThinker is it is probably one of the least expensive services that we can provide for you, and it offers minimal disruption in your operations, and it brings you up to speed, right? But more importantly than that, these hidden costs are bleeding you. And let's talk about that. So, I think we often can find ourselves in this kind of mindset of, well, if it ain't broke, we don't need to fix it right now. But I'm going to talk about how that mentality is just really falling apart right now, and we need to not be thinking that way. Maintaining legacy systems isn't cheaper than modernizing anything. The costs are just as hidden and spread out over time. Extended support contracts for end-of-life software can cost somewhere between 200 and 300% of standard support fees. And fun facts, if you're on a version, I think it's 11.8 or older, there are no longer, patches or support that Hexagon can offer you through your maintenance contract that you're paying for year over year, right? If you're on-prem and you're still paying your maintenance contract and you haven't upgraded, you're paying for a service that's doing nothing for you. So it's in your best interest to try to stay. I'm not trying to tell you to spend all the money in the world, but stay on the latest and greatest, because not only for feature and functionality, but so you can maximize the benefits that you can get from the Hexagon maintenance support structure. But security remediation requires additional monitoring, manual processes, and all of that can be automated in current versions. So let's talk a little bit more about operational efficiency comparisons here. There's a huge efficiency gap. These legacy systems require more manual intervention for routine tasks, which is creating labor costs that accumulate over time. It's easy to think that 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day on some of these tasks every day of the week doesn't really affect the bottom line. But when you add it up over a year, it has major impacts. There's this case study for Invenergy, a energy generation company, where they just introduced Hexagon EAM as a mobile application, and they're able to save their maintenance technicians 15 minutes a day and just eliminating routine tasks, automating certain tasks, and that's turned into an annual yield unrealized savings of almost $500,000. What could an extra $500,000 on your bottom line do for you this year? So let's look a little bit more on the opportunity cost visualization component of this. The biggest cost is the opportunity cost. While you're managing legacy infrastructure, your competitors are leveraging newer technology, newer analytics that are powered by AI, advanced mobile capabilities, and cloud-native scalability. In short, they're just making decisions a lot faster than you are. They're responding to issues a lot more quickly than you are, and they're operating more efficiently. And when you add up all of these factors, extended support, remediation, inefficiencies, opportunity cost, This total cost of ownership is now exceeded what the cost of just an upgrade would be within 12 months. If you go to the cloud, maybe 2 years. So while we're talking about the cloud, let's understand a little bit of what some of those strategic advantages look like. I understand, for some of you that are operating on-prem, right, especially an older version, that was a significant investment on the front end. And some folks might be operating on concurrent licensing versus named user licensing. So there's a little bit more nuance than simplicity of just jumping into the cloud, right? And that's where leaning in on your support provider, or some of us in the community that are, product experts like DigitalThinker or some of the other solution providers, can help navigate this for you. But cloud deployment offers advantages that really go beyond cost savings or significant investments on the front end. Cloud customers received their software updates immediately. There's no downtime. It just happens. And it sounds like fairy dust in some ways, right? But it does, and we see it, and it's reliable too. And while on-prem customers, traditionally, they had to wait 12 to 18 months for major updates. More so recently, Hexagon released the on-prem updates the same day as the cloud updates, but it still takes time. You still have to have somebody either come in and do it for you, or if you're doing it internally, it's going to take time. There's going to be a little bit of a disruption that's involved with it. So it just requires a little bit more effort. But in the cloud, it means immediate access to new functionality, immediate access to security patches, security updates, and compliance features. Here's a little known fact for you regulatory folks, right, going to the cloud. Hexagon has what's called a pre-prod environment, or pre-production environment. So before a major release is updated and out to everybody else, you in food and bev or pharma, you guys get early access to the updates. You migrate your production environment into the pre-prod environment, and you get to validate your system before the update rolls out, so you can ensure that you're meeting validation requirements. That way, if you do have any bugs, any hangups, any problems, you're not dealing with it the day of. You have plenty of time to plan, prepare, and then mobilize. And then more importantly in the cloud too, you just have access to more advanced analytics capabilities. Cloud version provides advanced analytics versus some of your on-prem legacy systems do. Integrations between IoT sensors, documents, other operational data is a little bit more seamless. There's more tools at your disposal, whether that's DataBridge Pro, Python Studio, or even just access to the REST API component. And in the cloud, right, let's talk about AI and machine learning tools a little bit. Currently, Alex, ALIX, right, the AI agent for Hexagon EAM, is only available for cloud customers right now. But more importantly, right, like these tools, were they to be deployed on your on-prem network, it's going to create a serious strain on the hardware and the capabilities and the maintenance of that as time goes on. So let's look a little bit more into I'm missing a slide here, I'm sorry, but I'll blow through that real quick and get into my people first component. So being in the cloud, right, like you're paying a yearly subscription versus a significant upfront cost with the cloud, or excuse me, with a maintenance package that's over yearly. But cloud subscriptions, they do eliminate that large upfront capital expenditure. You're able to scale up and down with the licensing that you need, or add modules or not. You can grow, adjust your usage. You can do so without major infrastructure planning or having to worry about additional hardware investments. And before you start worrying about security, I think this is probably one of the most important components here. Cloud providers invest way more in cybersecurity than most organizations spend on an entire IT budget. And if you think about it from a common sense standpoint, it's in cloud organization or cloud providers' best interest to have the most secure and the most reliable cloud-based system out there, so they can ensure that you're successful and you remain a customer for a long time. So I think debunking the myth of cloud is unreliable is kind of gone. It's a little bit of an old school way of thinking. And I'm not trying to, point fingers or show that, that's an outdated way of thinking, but we've reached a point in technology where cloud-based environments are just incredibly reliable. And if we do have interruptions in them, they get dealt with very, very quickly. But they do have dedicated security teams. They've got advanced threat detections and enterprise-grade monitoring that can prohibitively, find these things or let you know that these things are happening before you even know it. And more times than not, Hexagon and AWS are just going to take care of it, and it's just not going to be a strain on you. So let's talk about the people impact. I know the slide's been up for a little bit, and this is the thing that really got me motivated to put this together for you guys today. So let's think about your people, your technicians. They're If you're using a mobile app on a later version, they're struggling with apps that just have very limited functionality or that are degrading every day. Your planners, your desktop users, they're fighting interfaces that just haven't been updated, that are still clunky. And as time goes over, they're becoming less functional. Your managers are making decisions on reports that can take sometimes up to hours to generate. You're not getting that real-time data input that you can get from an updated system or being in the cloud. And then I talked a little bit earlier, right, about current versions in the cloud have the AI chat assistant, Alex. But more importantly, like that's cool, that's all fun, it's all well and good. It's not the savior to what Hexagon EAM is, right? The things that make Hexagon EAM great in its latest version or in the cloud is the modern mobile interface, the offline functionality that digital work has or mobile offline has, the intuitive interfaces, Overview 360, for example, the updated start screens and start centers, the personalization options, the advanced analytics that can turn your data into actionable insights, right? Like we talked a little bit yesterday about asset performance management. How do you get out of reactive mode, right? It's beyond just having a PM schedule and doing work to do work. It's, again, the question remains, right? Like, are we doing the right work on the right piece of equipment at the right time to maximize not only the asset performance, but to maximize uptime and help prevent unscheduled downtime? And to be honest with you, you as business leaders out there, your people deserve better tools that not only make their job easier, but they get the job done quicker and they can just be better at what they do. It's like fighting a fight with your hands tied behind your back. So what's the path forward look like? I understand that like the last, probably 19 minutes of this, maybe even 20 minutes, it sounds like I've been beating you up pretty hard, and that was not my intent. My intent is to just educate and challenge you to think a little bit differently. So I know this feels very complex. It feels risky. It feels a little scary because I talked a lot about scary stuff here, but continuing to operate this fundamentally compromised platform is just more risky than not doing it. You're exposing yourself to more risk every day you don't do anything. And the good news is the migration or the path forward to an upgrade doesn't have to be a nightmare. It doesn't have to be overly difficult. That's where partners like DigitalThinker come in to help plan and execute accordingly for you. Modern tools that are in Hexagon EAM, like the import utility, can handle data migration pretty seamlessly. Cloud deployment eliminates infrastructure capability issues. Experienced implementation partners like DigitalThinker are here to guide you through the entire process and help you avoid the common pitfalls that come with it. And let's call that out. If you're moving to the cloud, right? It's work, but it's not rocket science over here. But the key thinking about this is business transformation. It's not just a technology project. You're not just upgrading software. You're improving security. You're ensuring compliance for those regulatory folks, and you're giving your people better tools and positioning your organization for future success to be better than the competition that's out there. So as we go to close out today, I'm going to leave you with a little bit of a call to action and a takeaway on this. Every day you delay modernization, the problem is only going to get worse and potentially get way more expensive. Security vulnerabilities accumulate, infrastructure becomes more obsolete, the gap between your capabilities and modern alternative continues to widen. So you have a choice, and it's a pretty easy choice. You can continue, and I'm going to use the word pretending that your legacy system is mature or is just fine, while it is becoming a liability. Or we can band together on this. We can lock arms and move forward, face the reality that modernization is coming whether you like it or not. And it doesn't have to be expensive and it doesn't have to be complicated, but we need to do it before it's too late. The vulnerabilities are real. The compliance requirements aren't going away anytime soon. And your people just need better tools. your competitors, they aren't waiting. They aren't waiting. They're trying to innovate. They're trying to find a way to get a leg up. We all are. So what we're doing out of this is to help you understand where your vulnerabilities are or where your inefficiencies may lie. We're offering a free assessment of your current environment. We just want to help you understand and really take a peek under the hood. What are your risks? And then we're just going to help you develop a practical roadmap to that modernization, right? So we're just going to look at it for free. If you scan the QR code in the upper right-hand corner of my slide here, or you can email me, alex.bolan@digitalthinker.com, or feel free to give me a call or go to our website, digitalthinker.com. We'll take a peek under the hood. We just need 30 minutes. If we can get in through a VPN, or you can just screen share from a Teams meeting, we can take a look at it, show you where some of your, again, vulnerabilities are. We can help explain and understand why you're experiencing difficulties with your legacy system. And then we can also bridge the gap on, why the latest and greatest version is good and why it can help you and how it can help you be better and be better every day. So schedule some time to talk with us. We don't need much. And again, we'll build the roadmap for you for free. We'll even build the cost saving strategy, as everybody says, the ROI, right? Like, we'll show you what it's going to cost you and what it's going to do for you over time and if you do it right. So in just a moment, we're going to open up for questions. If anybody does have them, I can unmute your microphone or you can just drop them in the chat, right? But I just want to thank you so much for your attention today. I know this information sounded very rough around the edges and uncomfortable, but it was designed to be that way. It was designed to challenge you to think a little bit differently. It was designed to address these challenges head on instead of living in maybe the ostrich world, so to speak, of if I just don't worry about it, out of sight, out of mind, it's just not going to be a problem. Or one of my favorite quotes I like to say in the house is, especially when a house project comes around, this is a tomorrow problem. I've run out of mental capacity to fix the to fix the cabinet door in the kitchen. It's a tomorrow problem. And does it become a tomorrow problem? No, it becomes a next day problem and a next day problem. And that damn cabinet door, as I'm thinking about it, is still sitting on the kitchen floor. And I bet my toddler's getting into the bag of flour down there right now. I hear him squealing and I hear my wife saying, stop that. So anyway, let's just take a step forward. Let's be more secure. Let's make sure that you're hitting compliance. And more importantly, let's be efficient and let's let your people do what they do best. So thank you so much for your time today. I'm going to take a pause, take a sip of water. And if anybody has any questions, raise your hand, drop a comment in the chat. And I'll be more than happy to hear you out. Well, it's looking like a few folks are leaving. That's pretty much the conclusion of this webinar today, everybody. I'll hang around again for another 5 to 10 minutes. If you need to go ahead and bounce, go right ahead. If you have more in-depth questions, again, don't hesitate to book a meeting with us. Reach out. Let's just have a conversation. I'm not trying to sell you anything. Let's just educate. Let's learn together. Let's take the next step forward together, and we'll do the best that we can to guide you in the right direction. So thank you so much for your time today. And like I said, I'll hang around for a little bit, and we can do some questions.